Hey everybody, this is Kodak here. I guess it's gonna be a tradition that when I run out of things to make videos of or run out of time or whatever, I'm gonna do a big discussion in the spring about stuff that's happened. So I've got a few news articles here that basically span from January till now. If I forgot to talk about anything major with any of these sorts of games, do please let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do a follow-up to this. Although, first of all, I do have to start with the One Piece trading card game. I remember, I might not be a fan of it because I really don't feel like the Dawn system has a proper direction to grow and evolve, but apparently it made it to 2 years, and to celebrate, they announced set rotation. Wow. Here's the thing about Bandai and set rotation is I've never known them to be very good at it. Like the last time they did a big rotation, they basically killed the Naruto card game. That's what I remember from it. There are right and wrong ways to do set rotation. First of all, a lot of games try to implement it because it's what the big boys do, or they implement it to make more money, but they don't actually execute on the premise properly. In order to do set rotation right, as I detail in my video, you are supposed to not only have an aggressive reprint policy so that people's collections don't get fully pulled out from underneath them, you also need to wildly experiment, introducing new gimmicks and mechanics and ways to play, because the rotation system means that if one is not very good or if it's too good, it will go away on its own. The reprint policy is very important, especially for your first ever rotation, because generally when it comes to your card game, your best selling set is almost always your first set. And if you take the value of those cards away, you are erasing easily the largest amount of value of people's collections, so people will often take the opportunity to dump a game now that their cards are no good in standard anymore. It is going to be interesting to see how Bandai handles this. If you go up to a game that's implementing set rotation, if you ask them, so what reprints are you implementing to secure our collections, and they just kind of give you a funny look, run. That game does not know what they are doing. Although, speaking of set rotation and not knowing what they are doing, Star Wars Unlimited, on its first anniversary, has announced that it is implementing set rotation. That is quite a shot in the foot if I've ever seen one. The game has had barely a year to gain traction, and you're already telling people that their cards are going to go away. This is absolutely not how to do it. They should have waited another year. I know their set rotation isn't getting implemented in another year, but this was way too soon to announce it. Although I am aware that they have done like reprints of cards in between sets. They actually reprint the cards in those sets. I'm not entirely sure why. You really only need to reprint the cards when a set is about to be rotated. I know ones like Disabling Fang Fighter and Super Laser Technician have gotten reprints in some sets. Those need to be reprinted fairly continuously, as those are absolutely staple cards. One of them is Spot Removal, another one is Ramp. They are in basically every red or green Dark Side decks out there. But yeah, that was disappointing to see Star Wars Unlimited by Fantasy Flight, who have not had much luck making Star Wars card games, often because of their arduous rotation policies, to just do it again. But I guess here we are. Oh well, at least they could be doing worse. They could be Lorcana, who have tried shipping their cards out to everywhere. People are buying Pokemon cards only to have it warm the shelves as people tear the Pokemon cards to pieces. That has been wild to see. Pokemon cards have kind of gotten this racketeering business going on. There is very clearly a coordinated effort to deprive ordinary people of these cards to try to scalp them for money. It's as bad as the stuff we saw during the pandemic where people were tearing shelves apart. People are ignoring limitations. Like, my Target says only 2 items per person. Yeah, right, like that's actually happening. I'm pretty sure people are like having a racket where they're just selling the entire selection of cards out the back. I have seen people at the Targets go to the distributors to try to shake them down. It is a nightmare. So here's what I'm going to ask all of you to do. If you ever see anybody, like a third-party seller, trying to sell Pokemon cards, like the current set, offer them the recommended retail value and refuse to budge. Pressure them into stopping this. The only way we can make this stop happening is if we stop buying it to let them have a profit. We need to start forcing these people to take losses in order to make this stop. It's possible. The card game space has been really bad lately. I honestly thought that Lorcana was going to be the tipping point, but that really hasn't happened yet. I'm wondering if the combination of Lorcana really starting to fade out, they've absolutely lost traction, or the sudden rotation of a lot of the other popular card games is going to finally cause the industry to give out. I've been hoping it for a long time. It's been like the Dark Age of comics all over again. Anyway, speaking of things getting shut down, Wizards of the Coast, the makers allegedly of Magic the Gathering, who can maybe muster one good set per year rather than and dedicate the rest of it to weird tie-ins. Over on the Dungeons and Dragons side, the new 5th edition, they really could not commit to a name to it. It is one of the worst things I've ever seen. They just call it New 5th Edition or 5th Edition 2024. I know some people are calling it 5.5. Please don't, because 3.5 was actually good, and this has not been. They just call it New 5th Edition, and don't call it 5.5, because I really want to highlight just how wishy-washy Wizards has been with this new edition, because it's been 10 years. If there was a time to do like a new edition or a revamped edition, that would have been now, or like saying that it's 5.5 edition, it would have been now. But here's the thing, is they want to keep the prestige of the current edition of Dungeons and Dragons, but rake in the money of selling a new edition of Dungeons and Dragons, and that has backfired to them completely. Like, everybody's seen this claim that Hasbro made that said that the 2024 5th edition books are their fastest selling to date. A lot of people just kind of reported it credulously, but some others went digging, and the book numbers they found was somewhere in the ballpark of 4,000 copies. So the theory that has emerged is that the quote-unquote fastest-selling quote is them applying a huge amount of spin to selling through their stock of books at Gen Con. That's my understanding of the story anyway, but otherwise the books haven't really been selling. I've seen them at my local stores. I've seen them discounted in a lot of places. It has not been great, although something that compounds this was their big selling point for this new edition was Project Sigil, a virtual tabletop that was designed to look really fancy and have lots of special effects, and it got shuttered faster than Concord. It did not even leave beta before getting shut down and having 90% of their staff laid off. Hasbro does not know how to handle this franchise. Like, Baldur's Gate came out, it was a huge success. They laid off all the people involved with that. They laid off so many of the people who helped make Magic and Dungeons and Dragons great on Christmas, basically right before Christmas. Thanks a lot there. They dedicated their time to making tons of action figures and stuff that nobody wanted. And in the case of Project Sigil, they are trying to monetize it like a video game. They have, starting with the OGL scandal a couple of years back, they have been trying to basically monopolize and take full control over the Dungeons and Dragons space so that they can monetize it like crazy. There was that big kerfuffle over the OGL. There was this recently where they tried to release a new edition that's not covered by the OGL so that they can try to monopolize the space. There's so much going on. Like, I'm surprised anybody tried to say that Hasbro were the good guys with the whole like commander board thing, because it's clear to me based on their pattern of behavior that taking over the Commander Rules Committee was their intention all along, and they hung those poor judges out to dry with that ban list. That is my assessment, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, Project Sigil was apparently not great. Apparently it was too fixated on special effects, like you roll the dice and they go on the board, but they just kind of go all over the place and you can't necessarily see everything. Apparently it was really difficult to run on anything but high-end hardware. This is versus things like Roll20, which you could probably run on a potato. If you want to do a good tabletop thing, a good virtual tabletop, you want to try to make it something that can run on virtually any type of machine, even on like tablets and stuff like that. Like, if you made it with like Minecraft level graphics, I think people would probably be more interested in it than Project Sigil, because one of the things they were trying to do with Project Sigil is they were trying to do AI dungeon mastering, which is no thank you. They are trying to do like integrate more of Hasbro's brands into Dungeons and Dragons. They put out a job opening that I discovered that was basically a position where you yell at the people who work at Wizards of the Coast to tell them that the executives are the ones with the good ideas and their ideas stink. That's basically what the job description boiled down to. It has been a nightmare over at Hasbro between that and the aggressive use of AI. And like I said, Project Sigil got shut down faster than Concord. It has not been a good time over there. A new edition is supposed to bring in the money. Instead, their profits went down by like 10%. It hasn't been great. Let's shift gears over to some stuff out of Japan, like Bandai. So Bandai, they make a ton of card games. They're all basically the same, and the new Gundam trading card game is another one of those. It is
yet another Duel Masters clone, not again.
Yeah, it's another one with shields and universal resource rows, and it is a pain. I'm not too thrilled about the Gundam trading card game, even though I am a fan of Gundams. I have a nice collection of Gundam model kits lying around. I do like Gundam, but I am not excited for this game because it is yet another Bandai basic card game. One that doesn't really seem like it has any sort of innovative design the way Digimon did. Digimon, it had the stacking Digivolutions that also resulted in good card flow. It had that sort of meter that you had to measure because if you played the big powerful cards, you're giving your opponent more resources to work with. It was a good system, and they haven't really had anything nearly that creative since then. Although this new Gundam card game looks like it sort of combines the worst elements of the One Piece card game and Union Arena. Oh man, Union Arena. Now there's a card to look at. It is one of the worst looking games to come out in modern history. It has, unlike the Ultraman card game, which had like those really clean screenshots, Union Arena has like the really awful looking, sort of blurry, fuzzy screen grabs and stuff. And its any card as resource system is the dumbest I've ever seen. So you put cards from your hand, any card, into your resource row to pay costs, but in Union Arena, you have to pay the resource cost to put a card into the resource row. That's right, it's another any card as resource game with the potential to brick. Fantastic, great design, Bandai. Oh, but I am excited for the new tabletop war game that they're proposing for Gundam called Gundam Assemble. And, you know, here's the thing, is looking at games like Snapship's Tactics and stuff like that, I was actually thinking of buying a bunch of 100mm bases and making sort of a Gundam tabletop game for myself that uses the 1/144th miniatures. That might be fun, but now they're kind of doing it for me. It looks like, rather than being like Warhammer, this game seems to more resemble BattleTech by having a small number of robots and moving them around on a hex grid. We are going to have to see if it matches the crunch and complexity of BattleTech or if it's trying to be something easier, although honestly, I think the most important factor is going to be price. It is going to be how much these things cost, because a lot of the popular war games, like Warhammer and stuff like that, have become ludicrously expensive, and Bandai is known for actually pricing things aggressively competitively. So if the Gundam games come out and the miniatures are like $10 a piece, then that is going to be a game with a heck of a future, and companies like Games Workshop, like Fantasy Flight, like BattleTech are going to have to take notice. I think it's going to be good. We're not going to really see the game until next year, apparently, but I do have some high hopes for it. In other good news, apparently Yu-Gi-Oh! Remembered that the semi-limited list existed. They delivered their ban list announcements kind of in the form of a Max Headroom April Fool's joke, but what they did was they actually took the current format and they used the semi-limited list to downgrade the consistency of the most popular decks without totally eviscerating them. So what we are going to see is a lot of people are going to be running the same decks, but they have been nerfed to damage their consistency and enable them to play more fairly. We'll see if it works. It's an experiment that I hope will pay off, because so often it feels like Yu-Gi-Oh! Releases their most powerful cards just long enough for the cards to sell out and then get banned. It does mean that people who built these decks at maximum playset at a high level will suddenly have an extra copy of the card that they can sell. This might allow a lot of popular cards to go back into circulation. It is going to be interesting to see where this goes. I have my eyes on it. The League of Legends trading card game has been officially given the name Riftbound, and they showed off what looked like is a new version of the cards. One of the things I said in my initial video on the subject is that the League of Legends art style is basically sort of a painted velvet look, and I guess these new cards are meant to look like that. I don't know if these are the common cards or if they are more of the full art variant cards I showed off before, but it's an improvement from the Bandai Basic they were using before. Tons of Kickstarters have been happening lately. There are lots of games I've been looking at. I was sent stuff for, of course, Shard Bugs. I was also sent, like, Neuroscape. There is yet another HoloLive card game that got funded on Kickstarter. We're up to 3 now at the very least. The HoloLive card game did get an English announcement, and oh goodness, V-Card, the Gamer Sups card game. The card game made by an energy drink company basically threw away their entire rule set, meaning that everything that they have sold up until now is completely worthless for the new game. They have changed the rules around basically completely, but I don't think the game is any better. Basically, you now have to scale up from 8 to 9 to 10, and they made the mascot characters a whole lot weaker. But since the website still has the old versions of the cards in their gallery, I cannot necessarily say if they have, like, actually improved the gameplay, if they've actually given the cards, like, a distinct choice where you actually have to choose which strategy you think is amusing. Personally, I would have done a VTuber card game a whole lot differently. I would have fixated on, like, major and famous moments of these characters. Like, they didn't make an infinite Womp Womp card, and that to me is just weird. I still don't think V-Card is very good, although I did send them some free advice back when the game was initially shown off that they really needed to have a starter product, like a starter deck product, and it looks like they listened to me because there it is.
I ordered it.
So also speaking of Kickstarter card games, Illustrol's put out their Moonrise set, which is going to be the final set that's basically dedicated to an entire element, in this case the Darkness element. Darkness has a lot of cards that sort of disable and undermine opponents' efforts, as you might expect. There's also a set of cards that are based on the moon phases. However, only 2 of these cards are actually really good on their own, so I don't know if the Volclip strategy will really happen. They have also announced their latest set, which is going to feature 2-player starter sets to, I guess, try to get more people into trying out the game with the first set that is going to be balanced between all 8 types. So that is going to be interesting to watch. Although, for a final fun little thing to discuss, the Nintendo Switch 2, or as I call it, the Wii U 2, is basically a new system that threw away everything that made the Switch popular. Do you know why the Switch was popular? It's because, despite being an underpowered machine compared to the Xbox or the PlayStation, it cost half as much as either of those systems. It was inexpensive, and it had good games on it that were also inexpensive, and by the look of things, the Switch 2 is casting all of that aside. They are charging $90 for their games. The console is $450, which is already more expensive than the Xbox and the PlayStation that are currently out. $90, it's $80 for the digital edition, and they're making you pay more for the physical copies to basically destroy any reason that a store would have to carry their games to give people a nice fun gallery to peruse and find. You know, who cares about, like, a retro gaming market? Who cares about being able to lend a game to a friend for them to try out? We're just not gonna do that anymore. You know, forget all of you people. But I suppose on the plus side, because Nintendo, who was seen as like the last bastion of reasonably priced gaming experiences, has very clearly fallen, we are probably going to see just a huge surge in practically a revolution in the independent PC game design space. We're going to be getting more great stuff like Balatro and stuff like that plays pretty much exclusively on computers, that is sold for a reasonable price and is fun to play. A lot of people are going to be casting aside console games to play stuff on their PC, or, you know, hint, hint, maybe they're going to cast aside those console games to play stuff in card game form. That might be fun. Hey. All right, so Yes, I know I lost about 2 weeks making the how to play video for Shardbug, so please do give that a look if you have not yet. I put a lot of work into it. I think I did a pretty good job. I would love it if you looked at it. Gonna throw that on my resume. Lots of fun stuff going on. People who don't understand how tariffs work. It's not necessarily great for the independent trading card game space either in that regard, but yeah, that is a look at the sorts of things that have been happening in the game space lately. And until next time, this is Kodak signing off.
Oh, Wormbo Waggins is a slimy fellow. His tail is long and his sword is yellow. Oh, hey there, all of you out there. If you could like and subscribe, that would help us out a lot. Thank you. Oh, Wormbo Waggins is a slimy fellow. His tail is long and his sword is yellow.